Hello and welcome to today's webinar from Real Story Group. My name is Scott Dill. I'm a business development manager here with RSG, and I have my colleague, our managing director, Jared Gingras, on the line with us as well. Jared's going to take us through the majority of today's presentation, but as we get started, I just wanted to mention a couple of quick little housekeeping items of note. First, thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy day to join us. I see a great group on the line here, more people logging in as we speak, and certainly always appreciate you taking some time to attend these sessions. So I will say that the slides will be available for you next week, and then for our subscribers that I see on the line here, you will also be able to access a copy of the recording of this presentation. So that'll be available in your subscriber library next week. Just to kick things off, I want to talk a little bit about Real Story Group, what we do, and specifically the types of markets that we cover in our research. So fundamentally, we're an industry analyst firm. We've been at this for over 22 years now. Got our start in web content management, which you see represented on the blue line here today. But what we're going to focus on today is digital asset management, and that's the purple line here on the map. That's a market we've been following for over a decade now, and Jared's been leading our research in that space for many, many years. And one thing that our customers know about us is the fact that we really pull no punches in our research. And the reason we can do that is we never work for the vendors we cover anyway. So we don't speak at their conferences or write white papers for them. Our only focus is on technology, users, and buyers. And frankly, we're the only analyst firm that we've ever come across that adheres to this business model. But it's something that's really critical for us, and it's really important for us to share that level of independence with you. The ways you can work with us, they're really varied, but there are really three that we like to highlight during webinars such as this. So first is our vendor selection advisory, where you can subscribe to a specific research area. So in this case, of course, digital asset management. You'd have access to the evaluations that we write on the vendors in that space, along with some advisory time with Jared and the rest of our analysts to help you with what could be identifying a short list or doing a deep dive on a couple of vendors and how they compare to your incumbent provider. So that's something you can certainly do. We're seeing more and more folks that are thinking more holistically about their MarTech stack. And so instead of just subscribing to one research area, you can actually subscribe to our full stack advisory offering, where you would actually have access to all of our research and get more advisory time, so you can start to have those more in-depth conversations about where all these pieces fit together as you're starting to think about an omni-channel future. And then a select number of our customers have joined our Stack Leadership Council, which is something we're really excited about. We've been doing this for 4 years now and had a chance to sprinkle in some in-person meetings again. So we just met in Chicago a few weeks ago. We'll be meeting again next month virtually about the practical applications of AI and ML. So something that's, if you're looking to learn from some of your most knowledgeable peers in the MarTech space and network with them and get a chance to hear from us as well, happy to share more details about this Stack Leadership Council when the timing is right. But for now, we want to highlight your journey to DAM 4.0. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to Jared.
Hey, thanks, Scott. And I'll echo Scott's sentiments as always. Thank you for spending a little bit of time with us today. As an industry analyst firm, as Scott mentioned, we advise people on making the right technology decisions, right? And over the years, we get inquiries all the time from people at various stages of their technology journey. Today, we're going to be talking primarily about digital asset management. So I'm going to bring this through the lens of digital asset management type clients. But the first question that we always ask when we get people on the phone is, where are you on your DAM journey? And some people are just starting out. Others are really using DAM as an engine to power their entire experiential stack. And so as a way for us to, at least internally, kind of plot where people are on their journey, we came up with this framework. We're calling it a 4.0 framework. We started with a 3.0 framework, and I'll explain that in a few minutes. But it's this area has evolved in a way where we had to add a 4.0 stage to our framework as well. But I think what I hope you gain out of this today is a way for you to see where you fall on these stages of dam maturity, if you will. And you could also use it as a way to kind of guide you as to what's next on your journey. Where should you be focusing next to move up these phases to on your way to that dam 4.0 future. So here are the 4 phases of this model that we put together. So DAM 1.0 is something we call standalone library. DAM 2.0 something we call DAM as a MarTech service. DAM 3.0, DAM as an omni-channel content platform, and DAM 4.0, which is getting a lot of interest recently, and that's DAM as a predictive content platform. So let's go through this progression one step at a time and give you some examples of what we think is really characteristic of each phase in this model. Again, DAM 1.0, DAM as a standalone library. So these are obviously people just getting started, right? Organizations, enterprises just getting started with getting a handle on their digital assets. But let's be honest, some that we talk to, and in fact, quite a few people that we talk to are not even at that 1.0 phase. Really, they're at some 0 point something phase. Everyone has digital assets in their organization. That's undeniable, I should say. But how those digital assets are stored and managed are, quite varied. So we encounter situations all the time where enterprises have assets on desktops, on laptops, on tablets, on phones, in email, in instant messaging technology, in file shares, maybe on your Z Drive, X Drive, G Drive, in your document management systems, in your collaboration tools, in various applications, and of course the cloud. One of the biggest transgressors of rogue digital assets today. How many of us have corporate Box, Dropbox, OneDrive, Hightail, WeTransfer accounts, and then we have our own private ones as well that almost certainly exist within our enterprises in little pockets throughout. So for those organizations, many of those, when they come to us, realize they need a DAM, and so oftentimes we're helping them get from that 0 point something phase to a 1.0 phase. And what I would characterize a 1.0 phase is really a common system where you can store, organize, retrieve rich media throughout its life cycle. And that's really the promise of digital asset management, is managing content through an entire life cycle, from creation to some sort of end of life, whether that's archival or deletion. But in many organizations, many well-intentioned organizations, I should say, who have put a lot of investment into standing up a digital asset management, in many cases, what they've done is just create another content silo within their organization. So over the years, we've seen lots of technologies geared to different content types, right? I'm sure many of you have lived through the days of document management systems that were called enterprise content management systems, but really what they were built to house is like, your Word documents, your PDFs, your PowerPoints, your Excel spreadsheets and the like. Many of us have also grown up in a web age where web content management systems were fundamentally built to handle web text, web images, web video, and that kind of thing. And marketing systems as well are not alone here, where they were built to house just marketing types of content. And so when we talk about many 1.0 organizations, when getting into the digital asset management game, what they did is you created another silo for video and audio and image files and a whole bunch of other Creative Suite files as well. And so let's pause there and say, for those of you who are in that boat of a 1.0 world, sure, this is a much better situation than you were in when your assets were all over the place in a bunch of different disparate tools, right? You're in a single system, but I think what's important to note here is typical of a 1.0 organization that system that you stood up is largely disconnected from your larger technical stack, right? So you created another destination to store assets, but you also created another destination from which you have to like download those assets and then put them somewhere else, right? So much better than a 0.0 world, but in many cases a 1.0 world is not enough. Let's talk about a 2.0 situation. This is something, again, we call DAM as a MarTech service. So I'm sure many of you have seen this awesome infographic by my friends at Chief MarTech. When we started doing this, I think there were a couple thousand different logos on the screen, and it grew to 5,000, then 8,000. And I think this latest one that was released back in May was over 11,000 different logos that fall into the category of marketing technology. And it's hard for even me to read this on my big screen in front of me here, but one of these boxes represents DAM. I can't even find it in real time, but that just goes to show you that DAM is one little piece of the puzzle here. And as an industry analyst, I always say that this is a bit of good news, because I think it's good news for industry analysts like us to try to make some sense of this for our clients. And one of the ways that we try to make sense of this is just trying to tell our clients that all those logos on that previous screen, they're not created equal, right? And so I think when it starts to get overwhelming, seeing all 11,000 different technology vendors out there at your disposal, that's good that you have options. But on the other hand, it's really important to recognize that these are not all equal technologies. They don't all have equal importance in your stack. And so a few years back, we came up with this concept called the MarTech Mall to illustrate the fact that certain technologies in your marketing technology stack are of more importance than others. Certain technologies should be considered foundational to your enterprise. And for many organizations back a few years back, I would say, web content management became so important because of the popularity of the web as a channel. CRM for many organizations is a huge foundational platform. For some of you who are product-centric companies, PIM is a foundational platform. So my point about the MarTech Mall is that no one's MarTech Mall is completely the same. Everyone has different foundational stores in their stack, but we all have a couple of things in common. We all have foundational elements. We all have some specialty technologies that exist, and we all want to leave room for some experimentation with the new technologies that are out there, the kiosks, if you will. As new technologies come into play, we want to be able to experiment, see how these things work for us, and do that trial and be able to swap some things out as appropriate. But the only way we're able to do that, the way we're best positioned to be able to handle that experimentation, is to get our foundational elements right. And we really saw DAM rise in profile among many of our clients, if not all of our clients, who say digital assets are so important to our enterprise. They're the lifeblood of many of our enterprises. We need to consider DAM as an anchor store. And so, even though this is a 4-step progression that I'm walking you through, it actually mirrors kind of this evolution that we saw in the enterprise as well. Back in the early to mid 2010s, we saw DAM get elevated as a core technology. But what organizations really were able to do there is start to do some horizontal integration. So saying, okay, it's not, we don't want all of our stuff in our web content management system, in our marketing automation system, our social engagement tools. Let's start to pull some of these assets from a single source of truth, if you will. And of course, even moving back, there was some creative tools that even fed our DAMs back then, as they do today. And so, but again, it was a very horizontal, one-way flow of information. But this model of the 2010s was still too siloed for the omni-channel era that many of us are thinking about today. I think one of the reasons for that is certainly the technology's fault, and maybe the challenges that we talked about in building technology for certain content types. But I think maybe even more important is many of us built teams that align to that technology, right? We built a web team, we built a social team, we built an email team, and we built a DAM team alongside that. So there are separate teams all nominally thinking about the customer experience, and getting those teams to align on a common customer experience, it can be challenging. And also indicative of this kind of 2.0 world as it evolved was the creative and messaging became channel specific, and the content along with things like data and rules became very platform and channel specific. So it was really hard to then think not only multi-channel, not only omni-channel, but even multi-channel was hard as he tried to divorce some of these things from a channel specific system that it was publishing towards. So the 2.0 organizations out there, we think have taken that leap to say, damn, it shouldn't be a silo. It needs to be recognized as marketing technology for many of our organizations. It's a critical part of the workflow. It has upstream integrations, from many creative tools into our repository, and many downstream integrations with systems of engagement or publishing tools to a variety of different channels. But again, it's a one-way flow of information in many 2.0 enterprises. So let's now talk about 3.0. And this is where it gets really exciting, because this is where we see a ton of activity happening today. And there are many organizations who find themselves just on the precipice here of crossing this chasm to the 3.0 world. And that's DAM as an omni-channel content platform. So let's talk about why we need to do something different. I already talked about the team still aligned to technology, the content is still aligned to the technology, and a lot of the technology aligned to the channels. But at the end of the day, all of us are trying to create experiences and ideal experiences where we get the right content, the right message to the right person in the right context at the right time, and ideally measure that effectiveness. And of course, we all know about the channels that exist today, but we don't know what's coming next. So as things change in our world, it's more important that we start to think less of a channel specific mentality and more in an omni-channel specific mentality, so that we can be ready for those unknown engagement channels of the future. And so what largely happened as when we talk to companies today who are high functioning 2.0 organizations, is they have a number of channels they're trying to create experiences in, but their content, data, rules, planning, and analytics are still so tied to those channels that the experiences that are resulting are disjointed and isolated and inconsistent. And so these organizations are saying, how can we do things differently? How can we create an omni-channel future that creates an integrated customer experience? And what we did is we started to identify some foundational services that the omni-channel organization of the future has got to figure out. You need to figure out your omni-channel operation so that you can break down some of those team silos. If you're a product-centered organization, product information has to be coming from a single source. If you're a customer organization, you need to understand, you need to have that 360-degree view of the people you're trying to reach. You need to think about journeys in a multi-channel capacity so that you're able to create experiences from as people leave one channel and go to a next. You need to report on it from an intelligence perspective and be able to model cohorts and individuals and even segments that you want to reach. But that red bar in the middle there is what we're talking about today. You need to have a single source of truth for reusable assets across channel, and that will give us the story consistency that we're all looking for. Let's look at this in a different way. I know this can be a little bit daunting at times, but if you think about this from a technology stack perspective, you have a number of different engagement channels at the top, a number of different interaction and delivery environments in the middle here, and then your engagement services are typically where your colleagues in marketing or in sales or in other digital experience capacities are doing a lot of their work, where they're creating a lot of experiences, right? In the web world, your web colleagues are working a lot in that web content management tool. Your sales folks are working a lot in the CRM tools. But again, today, a lot of these different systems have become bloated in a way where there's so much content, so much data and so much decisioning happening in these systems that in order to do things different, we need to start thinking more enterprise foundational level and thinking more omni-channel. And so what we're proposing is that you push core content, core information, core data, core decisioning out of these channel specific systems and create a layer in your stack that provides this as a service to the enterprise. And we're not going to get into all the data and decisioning things today, but let's focus on content and information and how it relates to digital asset management. So the premise here is that if we're able to push core assets lower in our stack, we're potentially able to provide a platform that is accessible to all these different systems that we're talking about. So, and I think maybe one of the biggest opportunities here is to think bigger than traditional assets. Think bigger than just what we often think about in terms of images, video, and audio. Think bigger in terms of what is true omni-channel content. Sure, it's all the things that we associate with DAM, but it could also be text and copy snippets. It could be offers. It could be documents. It could be micro experiences that are some combination of traditional assets and text and maybe even code, if you will. And so I often describe this as like a Game of Thrones here. Everyone wants to be your omni-channel content platform. This has been a massive phenomenon that we've seen from our clients as to saying we need to do things differently to create better experiences. So because of that, we're not the only ones hearing that. I'm sure a lot of vendors out there are hearing that. And so DAM vendors want to be your OCP. There's a bunch of web content management vendors out there who want to be your OCP. There's CRM vendors and marketing operations vendors, distribution vendors, and even PIM vendors who want to be your OCP. And they're all kind of marching on the throne here. As of today, from where I sit, I still believe that the DAM vendors have a bit of a head start here. I think they still represent the best long-term solution because they were built to be a bit more scalable and robust repositories than some of their peers. And I think that they cracked the nut as it relates to images and media in many cases. Now, this is a very general statement, not all DAM vendors, but as a segment, I think they're best positioned to be that omni-channel content platform of the future. We'll see who wins. We're going to be watching it certainly very closely. So DAM 3.0 organizations, you're managing media and narrative and data all as first-class objects. You're supporting component level management for omni-channel activation. So a lot of times if we break free from these channel specific situations, we have to think more granularly than we've done in the past. And because of that, we have to maintain some pretty complicated parent-child sibling relationships between these components. And then one of the big things that I think is really interesting in the 3.0 world is, whereas in the 2.0 world, we had that one-way flow of information, in the 3.0 world, I think we're going to see more of a round tripping of data, so that data based on what is actually happening in your engagement channels, actually coming back and living aside of your digital assets to better inform future decisions. And I think that's really, really, really powerful. So measuring effectiveness at the asset level, not just at the campaign level. Finally, 4.0, predictive asset management. And I've been talking about this for the last year or so. And when I first started talking about this, I had a question mark next to the 4.0. We are, as a firm, we try to be based in reality and not be too predictive in our own analysis. But there was something happening here that I thought it was so important that people were thinking about getting beyond even what we're talking about in the 3.0 world and being smarter and leveraging data and content in a much more meaningful way. That I started talking about this predictive content platform as a theory, but I can say even since I started talking about this, I don't go a day without seeing a briefing from a vendor who's investing heavily in a 4.0 world. And buyers in the last year have been asking about, how do I get to 4.0? This is happening. Our management wants to get here. We have to get here. Let's really invest and put the foundations in place to get us there. So what does that mean? Well, it means a lot of different things, I think, and I'm going to share some really simple examples that I'm seeing, but this is not a comprehensive list. I think one thing that is kind of a trend in a 4.0 world is really thinking about assets differently. Don't just think about the finished asset. Think about assets as never finished. One really simple example here is being able to personalize our assets. Now, this is a silly example with a text overlay here, but thinking about being able to manipulate assets to either a segment, a cohort, or even an individual person. That never finished asset extends to being able to manipulate my assets in real time. Again, super basic example here where you do a text overlay, maybe offering an offer, but it can get real interesting when you start thinking about applying translated assets to different parts of the world, or showing different variations of images. Maybe that chair looks different to someone in Europe versus South America, and you want to provide something very different to different people. I also think there's a concept of, this is where it really gets into this predictive notion, is predicting which assets are going to perform better. I think if you think about the way we try to reach people in marketing campaigns, oftentimes we think in terms of segments, right? And so you might be trying to reach women between 25 and 35 years old in Europe who want to take their families to the United States for vacation in December, right? It might be a very specific goal of yours that you're trying to achieve, and you might query your digital asset management system to say which assets are more likely to perform better. Is it image A or image B? Again, overly simplified, but I think you can see the possibilities here. I think predicting asset performance at scale is a super powerful thing here, because we're all drowning in assets. We're all drowning in so much content that we start to think about, what if our predictive platform of the future could start bubbling up which assets we should be thinking about before we even go to that tool and ask it to do that, right? What if it knows the time of year, and based on previous performance, why can't our system say, hey, you should probably be thinking about putting this out into the world because it's going to trigger X, Y, and Z results. And of course, AI is a big part of this. AI, everyone's talking about AI. To date, when we talked about AI, DAM vendors always talk about metadata, right? And putting smart tags based on what they can glean about an asset and against a larger metadata set and do some suggestions. That's super powerful and can provide some real benefits, but I think that's just the tip of the iceberg here. I think we're starting to see systems start to trigger logic based on AI. Based on an image you start to put into a system like this, can you have custom entry fields, custom workflows based on what that image actually is, without a person intervening and saying, I want to go with this workflow or that workflow? What if the system could kind of start that process without human intervention? What if you could do infringement checks, rights management checks, and different requirements based on the assets themselves? And of course, what about the generation of copy and assets? We're all talking about generative AI, and I think this is where it's going to hit the ground. It's not just going to be humans creating assets in our platforms. These systems are going to be creating assets in the future based on real data, round tripping itself to a platform like this, and creating new assets that we can use. Now, here's where I bring us back to reality. There is no doubt this is happening, but there's some real hard questions being asked. In terms of content, is our content granular enough to support these ideas that we're talking about, or is it too granular? Do we have the right data to be able to round trip back to our platforms to give us a real smart decision? And is our data telling us the truth? Do we have to do more, and do we have to provide more context to make this actually function in the way that we envision? And what is the user experience like for this? What are our colleagues going to be presented with to make these smart decisions? Do we have the right organization structures in place? Do we have the right resources in place? We have this council that Scott mentioned that meets quarterly with some of our biggest customers and some of the biggest companies in the world, who are asking these exact questions, like, do we need to put a different org structure in place to be able to marry up content and data in a better way to create this predictive content platform of the future? Another hard question is your dam holding you back? We keep seeing this. I mentioned, I think dam as a segment is the technology that's going to get us there for many of us, at least as where we sit today. But we see many organizations who are hitting some real serious roadblocks as to can their current dam get them to where they want to go. And you know, that model that I just showed, this 1.0, 2.0, 3.0 world, we found that different vendors are very much suited for 1.0. Some vendors are very suited for 2.0. Some are built to solve 3.0, and even less are built to solve a 4.0 situation. So finding the right vendor to get you to where you want to go is going to be really challenging and continue to be so as we move forward. So where are you on your dam journey? I'm sure you're all at different phases, but I wish you the smoothest ride possible. And if there's any way we can help, just let us know. Thank you all for your time.